You ever get the feeling that some towns just have a secret, a hidden story, that if you could just figure it out would explain everything about the place? Well, today we are unlocking the secret of one small town in Wisconsin, and it's a story that might just sound a little more familiar than you think.
Seriously, just think about it for a second. What's the untold story where you live? You know, the one that explains all the power dynamics, the old family names, why certain neighborhoods look the way they do. Because trust me, every single town has one.
And in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, the key to understanding its entire social and economic history, well, it can be found in the story of a single family business, Brunette's Ace Hardware. It's a story about who gets a seat at the table and who has to go out and build their own.
Okay, so that story of building your own table really begins by understanding the two sides that define Sheboygan for generations.
So on one side, you've got the establishment, a powerful, kind of insular group that, let's be honest, held all the cards. And on the other side, you've got the scrappers, the outsiders, the underdogs, who just flat out refuse to bow down. This right here, this is the central conflict that shaped absolutely everything.
So let's take a closer look at this establishment. Locally, they had a nickname, the German Machine. And that name, wow, it perfectly captures just how systematically they held on to their power.
At the core of this machine was a group called the Church Germans. Now, this wasn't just about religion, not at all. It was about a specific elite network of families who were all deeply intertwined with the town's social life and, this is the important part, its economic life.
And here's how they built this totally airtight system. You had the same powerful families, we're talking names like Kohler, Vollrath, and Bratz, who didn't just run the major factories, they also sat on the boards of the local banks. It created this interlocking system of control, all designed for one very simple purpose: to protect their own.
So the crucial point here is this. This wasn't just about social clubs or who you saw at church. No. This was about money, plain and simple. It was about controlling capital, deciding who got the loans to start a business, who got to expand, and, who is completely shut out.
I mean, the source material puts it pretty bluntly. For anyone outside this elite circle, the reality was simple. You were, for all intents and purposes, redlined. The doors to local financing were locked tight, and the gatekeepers held the only key.
So, what happens when you're on the other side of that locked door? Well, that's when you meet the people who refuse to be kept out, the scrappers. And in Sheboygan, that meant the incredibly proud and resilient Slovenian community.
See, when you're shut out, you build your own world. And that's exactly what the Slovenian community did. They built their own fortress of culture and support. They had their own church to hear Mass in their own language, their own tight-knit neighborhood on the south side, and get this, even their own cemetery.
And that cemetery, which they called Zelena Dolina, or Green Valley, it wasn't just a burial ground. Oh no, it was, as the source describes it, a final declaration of independence from the German establishment. It was a powerful statement that they were going to carve out their own destiny, from birth all the way to death. So, let's say you're an ambitious Slovenian family. You want to start a business, but the local German machine controls all the capital. What do? Where do you turn?
Well, their solution wasn't just a business plan. It was a straight-up act of rebellion. When you got denied a loan in Sheboygan, you got in your car and you drove south to Milwaukee. You went to banks that didn't care about your last name or which church you went to. Nope, they only cared about one thing. Could you pay them back? And that drive was everything. It was the decision to just completely bypass the local gatekeepers. It was the moment the scrappers found a crack in the machine, and it was the beginning of a whole new kind of independence.
This whole struggle, this powerful act of defiance, it ended up creating a pretty surprising legacy that really still defines the character of the community to this day.
And here is the great paradox of the whole story. By forcing these families to go find outside capital, the local establishment accidentally made them stronger. They weren't tied to any of the local handshake deals. They were truly fiercely independent, forged in the fires of being excluded. They had grit.
So, to just sum it all up, this is the secret history of Sheboygan. It's a tale of two totally different philosophies. You have the establishment protecting its own by controlling local capital. And then you have the scrappers, the Slovenians, the Jews, the Greeks, who found their power in grit, in outside capital, and in an absolute refusal to kiss the ring.
Which, brings us right back to where we started. The story of one little hardware store can reveal the entire soul of a town. And it makes you wonder,
What forgotten journey, what defiant drive for independence is hiding in the secret history of your own community?